Welcome to another special edition of Daily Airline News focusing on the search for MH370. I'm Jeffrey Thomas and delighted to say once again joined by my co-host Richard Godfrey, who has taken Whisper technology, perfected it as a tracking tool for aircraft and has found a new location for MH370. Good morning, Richard.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey.
And as usual, let's start off with our friends. Well, no, the MH370 search area is what we're starting off with.
Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to have a little look at the weather in the MH370 search area because there have been many media reports that the weather is turning and is looking a bit nasty, and that's the key reason why Ocean Infinity left the search area and went back to Singapore. Of course, it's now on its way to the Philippines, so there's obviously another project there. There are currently no tropical cyclones in the Indian Ocean area around the MH370 search area. The wind is 24 kilometers an hour, 13 knots, which is a moderate breeze. The wave height, however, is 3.3 meters, which is almost 11 feet. So that's not exactly comfortable. Um, and yeah, that could be a reason. Quite frankly, I wouldn't want to be out there in 3.3 meters of waves. Don't know about you, Jeffrey.
Well, my wave height is 3.3 feet, so that's my limit. Uh, yeah, I'm not a good sailor. But listen, talking of ships out there, what's the latest on the Chinese research stroke spy vessel?
Well, the Tan Su Yi Hao is still in the same location near Broken Ridge, in the middle of the Indian Ocean. The AIS reports from that ship actually show 3.6 meters or nearly 12 feet of waves. So you wouldn't want to be on that ship, Jeffrey,
No,
um,
definitely
at,
not.
at the moment.
Yeah.
And I've done a bit of research into the Chinese vessel, and for the Sunday episode, we've got some interesting information about the AUVs and the ROVs, and they've even got a hybrid ARV um, on the, so it's a autonomous and a remote controllable vehicle. So we'll bring you that update on the Chinese vessel on Sunday.
Sounds fascinating. Yeah, doesn't surprise me. But what about our survey? I think we're getting some incredible responses, are we not?
Indeed. In the last 2 days, we've had almost 1,000 comments on the YouTube channel, which is massive, and the keyword survey has been mentioned, getting on for 500 times, and there's lots of other keywords which give me a clue that it was actually a response to the survey. So. Keep the survey responses coming. If you haven't had the opportunity to put in your view or your opinion, and the question is, what do you believe happened to MH370? And we will then run the survey till the end of the week, till Sunday, including Sunday, and then we'll stop the survey and deliver the results beginning of next week.
Right. Yeah, there's certainly some, and some viewers have, instead of having one line, I think you specified one line. Some viewers have given us 10 lines, chapter
I,
and
I,
verse.
I
which is fun. This is
specified
good.
I specified one sentence, and some
Yes, yes,
sentences can be several pages long. Yeah.
yeah, clearly, clearly. Okay, so look, we've got some great questions. I mean, really fabulous questions from you all. Thank you so much for them. And here's a selection. Now, one we left over was is from uh, Greg Claydon, 6727. And he said, Jeffrey, in your comments on Exmouth, I believe this was once a refueling stop for American submarines during World War II. And in fact, this is one that I'm going to answer. Yes, indeed, it was. Now, what happened there when Manila fell to the Japanese? The American submarines that were based there moved down to Indonesia. When Indonesia fell, they then moved down to Australia and to two bases, Exmouth and Fremantle. They thought that Exmouth was far enough away from the Japanese bombers to be safe. But in fact, in early 1943, two Betty bombers attacked Exmouth and didn't do any damage. But the fact of the matter is that they found it and they bombed Exmouth. So the submarines that were there then moved down to the Fremantle base, which was indeed well away from attack. But it was used for refueling a bit later in the war. And then it was also the airport there, which was originally called Potshot Airfield and now renamed Learmonth Air Force Base, which is used by the Americans and the Australians. It was also used as a refueling for aircraft as well, Liberator bombers and others operating from further south through there into Southeast Asia. So yes, it has been a US base of one kind or another for quite a long time. That's the answer to that question. The next one is from Nat Angelivistic. I understand correctly that three identified flights from Diego Garcia, possibly P-8 Poseidons with tanker support, were following the flight path of MH370 24 hours after it disappeared. My question is, why follow the assumed flight path of MH370 instead of heading directly to the assumed crash site of MH370? Perhaps you can answer that, Richard.
Yeah, very, very good question. I think it might be Nathaniel Vasic is the name,
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
but I'm not very good on Eastern European languages. Um, Good question. Refueling is the key to answering that. The Boeing KC-135 tanker aircraft has a range with a full load of fuel for other aircraft, which it doesn't use for itself. It has a range of 1,500 nautical miles out and 1,500 nautical miles back to wherever the refueling takes place. Now, waypoint Mutme is 1,244 nautical miles from Diego Garcia, so that is perfectly within range. The crash location assumed at the time for MH370 at 36 degrees south and 93 degrees east is over 2,000 nautical miles from Diego Garcia. So it is out of range of the refueling. So my thinking at the moment is that the Poseidon P-8 aircraft were in the vicinity of waypoint Mutme, having then been within range of a KC-135 tanker aircraft for refueling, carried on for 4 hours down to the 36 degrees south, and then would have come back for another refueling before heading back to Diego Garcia. So that's the thinking. The other alternative was they stopped off in the Cocos Islands to refuel, and we've been through that discussion as well, whether Cocos Islands was able to take a P-8 Poseidon with the runway deterioration, which has been subsequently found in 2016.
Mm. So from Lorenzo C4410, I've been an airline aviation enthusiast since I was 6. I've been following your special editions for several weeks now, and I appreciate the material you present and how you do it. Question: what are the chances that the Chinese vessel is preparing to perform a search as well? Maybe just calling it a scientific exploration. Malaysia could have made an agreement with them behind the scenes to search for and recover any records before Ocean Infinity comes back. That way, no public announcement of finding MH370 may need to be done by Malaysia if there are compromising items that could be uncovered leading to this accident, as you addressed before on your channel. Of course, this is speculation, so just asking about your professional opinion. Thank you. Very good question. I like that one.
Yeah, and it is indeed a good question. I have to say, you're right. What you're calling it's speculation, and you ask what our professional opinion. Well, my professional opinion is I don't think Malaysia are doing double dealing with Ocean Infinity on one side and with the Chinese on the other. However, I see it's quite plausible that China will want to do its own research and is not taking research done by Ocean Infinity at face value. Um, Quite clearly, the Chinese vessel is in the area of Broken Ridge, which is very interesting from a geological point of view, very interesting from a marine research point of view, but they're also inching closer to the seventh arc and the MH370 search area. And we'll see whether they do go there. They're currently under restricted status, so there is a pattern of AUV and ROV operation taking place, and we're going to go into that in more depth on Sunday.
Also, just to remind viewers, and this is something that just gets completely forgotten, MH370s was a what's called a code share flight. They code shared with China Southern Airways Airlines and from Guangzhou. Now, what code share means is that China Southern buys seats, 100, 200 off Malaysian Airlines, and it sells them separately for this aeroplane, for this MH370 aircraft. So Chinese folk would buy a ticket on China Southern flight, say CZ370, and they would find themselves on board Malaysian Airlines MH370. So the Chinese, there was 159 Chinese on board that aircraft going back to Beijing, and so that's the largest number of any nationality on that aeroplane. So the Chinese should have a particular interest in finding this aircraft or solving the mystery, and really, in many ways, are as responsible as Malaysia is for the loss of this aeroplane. So, just a bit of background. That be correct, Richard?
Yep,
Yep.
spot on as always.
I'm glad you agree with me. Yeah, but it's something that's been just forgotten over the years. So, Apollo Freya, another great episode. My cat Apollo watches you guys at times. Keep up the good work. So, yeah, okay, thank you. Um,
Yeah, a curious cat.
yeah. Schmilzy says, truth has it that Mr. Unwise is really a big fan of this channel and he watches all the videos under a secret alias. I mean, you can't blame him. Even the haters can't get enough of this. Keep it up. A nice comment. Veritas 256 says, Jeffrey, thanks for your confirmation that you have raised the question with authorities. And he was referring to the over horizon radar not working, the JORN, and the nature of the response you received is quite telling. And I fully support Richard's plea for greater transparency from the relative authorities citing security concerns. That's just more of a comment than anything else.
Yeah, but the time has come after 11 years for a little more transparency from the authorities, in my view.
In fact, that's possibly the subject of another episode for us to do with MH370 is a list of everything we don't know that were
Yeah.
being withheld by governments. I think that would be a rather telling list, actually, and a long one.
There are two lists. There's what we don't know that we don't know we don't know it, and what we don't know but we do know that we don't know it.
Right. Now, let me think about that. Okay. Now, Teresa Corrigan, 3076 um, from Canada. Are you going to keep posting until the search resumes in November? Hope so. So at this point, yes, we are going to continue with the MH370 series, but obviously not every single day. But what we are going to do, and we're going to launch it on Monday and give you more details, is going to launch a new sub channel called the Plane Guys. Now, not PLAIN, but PLANE guys, where you can ask us any question you like about aviation, and we'll just walk you through the mysteries of aviation, which is a fascinating subject. So, more details of that on Monday, Teresa.
Uh, And the plane guys will plainly answer your
Yes,
question.
they will, without any. Yes. Okay, so from Big Polar Bear 9917, possibly up in Canada as well, the figure of eight was possibly Sahari attempting to orient the aircraft for a ditching between the swell. I wondered if he believed he could escape the plane in one of the survival rafts on board and sail it to some remote landfall. If it was, it most likely failed when it hit a 2 to 3 meter wave and the aircraft broke up. That one, Richard, is all yours.
Yeah. I completely agree that the figure of eight might have been wanting to check the line of waves and the line of the swell. When you're trying to ditch, you're supposed to ditch across the swell, but into the wind, which is a bit difficult because the waves can be driven by both the swell and by the wind. Um, yeah, and I think you're right. It was a failed ditching. The water wave height 2 to 3 meters is not very easy to ditch an aircraft on. And escaping into a survival raft, well, I've sailed through the Indian Ocean in 9 meter waves, and I'm very glad I didn't have a problem and had to use the emergency life raft because I'm not sure how long you will survive in the middle of the Indian Ocean in a small life raft in large waves.
Mm, indeed. Okay, from Tony James, why is it even possible to turn off a transponder on a civilian airliner? Has anything since 2014 been done to rectify this so that planes don't vanish?
Um, it is possible to turn off a transponder for two reasons. One, after landing, sometimes the tower can request a pilot to switch off the transponder. Imagine a very busy airport. Every aircraft and every ground vehicle has a transponder, and the electronic fog can be so great that you can't see the wood for the trees. So they ask aircraft to switch off their transponder so that they can track the vehicles, the ground vehicles, and their transponders. Another reason is if the transponder has an error and gives out the wrong position. It might, for example, set off a collision avoidance system in another aircraft erroneously. So you don't want that to happen. There are valid reasons why you need to be able to switch off a transponder, but what is being done to rectify this is a new system is being introduced independent from the transponder, independent from other aircraft systems, and which cannot be switched off in the cockpit or anywhere else in the aircraft in order to continue tracking and give a position of an aircraft on a regular basis should something untoward happen to that aircraft.
Okay, from Bill Manning, 8806, why were the Ocean Infinity 7806 survey routes so squiggly? Instead, I would think the ship's route should be more a tidy zigzag.
Yeah, but there's a confusion in this bill. Uh, if you watch the ship is actually not doing the survey. The AUV is doing the survey, and the AUV is following a programmed route underwater, and you can't see exactly where the AUV goes. So you watch the ship, and the ship will go from the point where it launches the AUV to the point where it recovers. It will also go follow the track of the AUV and listen out because the AUV can communicate with the ship on the surface. But if you follow the ship, you're not actually seeing the search pattern or the survey pattern. You would need to follow the AUV, which we can't do.
Okay, one last question we've got time for. Scott Denny, 2281. Richard, love your work with Whisper. My question relates to the first leg of the route from KL to Beijing. Has the Whisper data been used to track MH370 all the way from the moment the captain said goodnight and turned the aircraft towards Malaysia and around Penang down towards the southern Indian Ocean? A lot has been said about the final heading south, but I want to know about Whisper data from the first leg.
Yeah, we have tracked MH370 from the moment it took off um, through the time of the diversion back across Malaysia into the Malacca Strait and all the way down into the southern Indian Ocean. So we have the data from the first leg where we can actually compare Whisper data with ADS-B data and radar data and ACARS data from the aircraft. But we also have it for the next leg where we only have civilian and military radar data. And then when it goes out of range of any ADS-B or radar, when the transponder is switched off, there isn't any ADS-B data to be had. We still track it with Whisper for the whole journey. So we have the full MH370 flight path from start to finish.
Right. So thank you very much, Richard, for those answers. Viewers, thank you very much indeed for tuning in. Please do tune in on Sunday night or Sunday morning, wherever you happen to be in the world, and where we're going to have a good deep dive into what capabilities the Chinese research vessel has, and of course, bringing you up to date with where it is, what it's doing. We'll try and interpret what it's doing. And then that'll be the end of the survey as well, Sunday. So you can still vote on Sunday wherever you happen to be. The results on Monday and also details of our new sub channel on Monday. So thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please like us and please do send in more questions. They're just terrific. And once again, Richard, thank you for your time and research.
You're welcome.